get them to one too?
That would be incredible. Falls a little flat. I'm gonna try this.
What it is?
You gotta be closer though. We got off the back.
I'm just gonna pass and rebound.
JT's got that swagger.
No, there's
Look at those. Look at that matching up.
There's a bit. People dunking.
You gotta be closer though. We got off the back.
I was at 4th Estate Invisible Children's event in California, and someone came up to me and said, will you say happy birthday to my friend Kevin? He just did a TED Talk that is blowing up.
Yeah.
And that was the first I had heard of you. But then I didn't watch the talk they said, you should watch the video. And I said, yeah, and then I didn't do it. And I was on sabbatical, so I was totally unplugged from normal work and, you know, what To Write Love in Our Arms was up to. And didn't know that we had posted about it, didn't know that you had already connected to the organization, and watched the video and loved it and thought it was the best talk I'd ever seen on someone struggling with depression. And you know, it wasn't that long, but I felt like you said so much, and I understood why it was connecting, and loved that it was connecting with people the way that it was and the way that it continues to. And then I went to follow you on Twitter, and I saw that you had already followed me, and you know, I was surprised by that. And I remember I messaged you, and that was where this friendship started.
Yeah, totally.
And so I guess I wonder what the other end of that is, like how you knew about us and me. And
yeah, well, I'd heard about you guys a couple of years back before the TED, and so I'd become mostly aware of your role in the organization, and that you were sort of the storyteller and the founder of To Write Love. And it was interesting because there was all these like sort of connections to you, like, you know, the video at 4th Estate, and then you guys posting the talk while you were on your sabbatical and stuff. And I was hoping that it would reach you, and really at first just because I felt like there were times when I would read stuff that you had written or listen to little snippets of your talks, and I was just really, I don't know, I guess encouraged or inspired just by your honesty. And then when we started talking a little bit, it was just very interesting to know that there was some more common ground between us than I had thought, because I didn't know any of your story as like a person. I didn't know sort of that we had such similarities in some of our stories, and maybe even some of our struggles and some of our questions. And I think right out of the gate with the TED stuff, it was at a point where, you know, we were getting 10 interview requests a day, you know, and I was doing them. And it was crazy. Like, you know, you're on Skype with these people, or you're taking calls, or sometimes it's in your area and you're doing stuff on camera. And I truly felt like I was losing myself in that. But there was this irony, right, of like, this is what I believe in, you know, like this is what I want to get out. And if people are going to give me an opportunity or an invitation or a platform to share this from, I absolutely want to do it. But then, you know, I sort of went through this thing where I'm like, I'm not being a good version of myself, because I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating, I'm not seeing the people I love, I'm not keeping up with relationships, I'm not being present, I'm just doing this thing 24/7.
And the irony that it makes what you're saying false.
Yeah,
in a way.
Exactly.
Like we tell everyone else, take care of yourself, slow down,
have community,
be honest. And then it's, I mean, and I had wrestled with that where I had gotten used to telling everyone else to go to counseling, and I hadn't yet taken that step in my own life, you know, and I got used to telling, and it wasn't that I didn't believe it, you know, even the same with, hey, it's okay to take antidepressants, but then but I had never done that, and in the last few years, like you know, those things have changed, and I've taken those steps, and I'm thankful, because I feel like those things have brought stability to me, but I feel like that's such an irony to it as well, is like, it's easy to say yes to the public stuff and talk about it, and then I think what you're talking about is but do I have this in my own life?
Do you ever think about, like, I know that one of the things that makes like your story so unique as a person, and also with, you know, To Write Love, is like how organic the whole thing was. Like, it grew from this story that was very real and very vulnerable and very true, and it just kind of took off, and you guys blew up out of nowhere, and now it's this big thing. Do you ever think about where you really are trying to go, or is it something that it's like it's day by day? Because for me, sometimes I wonder, like, what's my big purpose? You know what I mean? What's my big vision? Where is this in a couple months, a couple years? Like, do you ever wrestle with that?
You know, it'll be 8 years in February since I wrote the story, you know, since I met Renee and wrote the story, and I didn't have a plan to get here.
Yeah.
And I think something I love, I guess my honest response is, the organization to me is a creative project, you know, and I think we approach it, or at least I approach it, much more from that lens or that perspective. And I feel like we exist to communicate, we exist to try to move people to know it's okay to talk about these things and to get help for these things. And that's such a broad canvas to paint on, you know, and I think that leaves so much room to be creative and to hopefully be bold and be honest.
I certainly see it all the time, where anytime you guys share my stuff or are kind enough to mention me, I get this crazy response from your kind of fans and followers, you know, of support. Do you ever feel like there's a sense of, like, I know you use the word responsibility, but do you ever feel pressure?
Yeah, it's humbling and it's challenging, and I think you said it really well, like, people confuse the message for the messenger, and maybe more than anyone else on our team, I've gotten to be the messenger, and it's easy for people to paint you the hero and think you're the one person who understands, you're the one person who I have to tell my story to. So you know, there is pressure, but I think it's healthier and has definitely gotten easier over the years as our team has grown, and we now have people in place and even systems in place where whatever weight I'm feeling now falls on a whole group of us. You know, it literally used to be me alone answering these messages. I mean, and you've been there.
Yeah,
and,
totally.
And now there's a whole group. You know, there's literally interns from around the world who come, kind of put life on hold, go through training, and commit to responding to these messages that keep coming in. And so I'm thankful now that whatever I feel or experience, I'm a part of a bigger thing, and I'm a part of a group of people that I can lean on, and not just in terms of systems and staff, but even that I can be honest with, you know, that if I'm struggling, I can say that out loud. And in a way that becomes the challenge of living this out, you know, and inviting other people to know it's okay. Like, if you're dealing with something in your life or your family, it's okay to say that out loud. Like, we're not robots. I mean, I say that from stage lately. Like, you're not just a student. You're not just a performer. You're not what you're good at or bad at. Like, we're all human and deserve to be allowed to be honest.
I know for me, sometimes new dreams kind of come with new fears, and you guys have your fears versus dreams things that I think is really cool. But are there new fears that are born in you or birthed from sort of some of these experiences? Like, are there new questions or new fears or new things that you struggle with sometimes because of the success and because of the media attention and because of the hundreds of thousands of people following you? And is there anything ever in your life that you're wrestling with in that element?
Yeah. I mean, I think if I'm honest, like, there's the fear that it'll go away. You know, there's the fear that people will stop caring. You know, it was really exciting to be the new cool thing. And we really were. Like, we came out of nowhere. We had the wildest story, the wildest beginning, and we were on the news, and we won $1 million on national television. Like, just this who would have thought story. And I mean, something we've talked about is, like, as doors start to open, there's a healthy part that gets really excited and grateful, and there's like a darker part where you start to stare at whatever doors don't open, or you wonder if they're just gonna, they have to keep opening. You know, and in a way, it's almost like these milestones of, you know, okay, maybe once or twice a year, there's this amazing thing that happens. So there better be something around the corner, you know. So we're almost 8 years in, and on so many levels, as an organization with a staff and a payroll, for me as a person, for me getting older and wondering, is it okay to get older? Like, our audience is young. Am I allowed to be 33? Am I allowed to be 34 next year?
Wow.
Can I name all the cool bands? You know, like it. But those are real challenges, you know. And you know, as I get older, will colleges still want me to come and speak? Will I be relatable? You know, so I know so much has happened in a short time, and I wonder, as you process that and think about the future, like what you're excited about, and also some of the stuff that is scary or is difficult in the midst of that.
I think the things I'm excited about has been just experiencing more. Like, I never thought growing up where I did, like on the far west coast of Canada, that I'd ever go to Pennsylvania or New York or these places, and especially for this, you know, because like my biggest fear in life at one point was just to tell anyone I was dealing with depression or struggling with some of these issues. So now to be going to different parts in the world, like you said, doing it in front of a room full of strangers, I mean, it's just so amazing to see that, like, sometimes from your pain maybe there can be a bit of a purpose, and that's exciting. And then to connect with people and just to get to meet people from different backgrounds and with different stories, and you know, that's just like so cool. I feel so connected to life, you know, like I feel like these people who live thousands of kilometers away, they're still people, you know, like they can still be your brothers and your sisters. Like, you're not so different just because of where you come from. So like, that's so exciting, and getting the opportunity to, you know, maybe encourage someone or help someone in the same way that others did that for me at one point. But sometimes I just wrestle with that idea of, you know, it's all come out of nowhere so fast, and I'm so young, like I don't have that much depth to draw on, you know, like I don't have all this life experience to go, I remember when, you know, it's kind of like, this happened for me 2 days ago and I'm going to talk about it now, you know. And so sometimes that's kind of hard for me.
The thing I come back to, I guess for both of us, is just the idea that you don't have to fake it, and in a way, like, you can't fake it because it doesn't work, you know. But I think, as like you said, like, man, I wish I was older. I wish I had more life to draw on or stories to tell. Like, I just think we got here by being honest. And I mean, we've both, I think, found ourselves in rooms or groups or on emails where you just feel in over your head. And you feel the need or the temptation to fake it, you know, or to pretend you're not shaken, you know. And to me, I think what people connect with, I feel like what I connect with, I feel like my heroes don't have it all together. Like, they don't pretend to have it all figured out, but they're honest. You know, they might be creative, they might be poetic, but they're honest. You said something to me once over text where you were saying it was advice you had got from someone who you trusted, where you said, you just being you, there's something really powerful to that. Yeah, I think I was about to talk in front of the most people I ever had. Like, it was like a few minutes in front of 50,000 people at this festival. Oh, wow. And he's a hero of mine. It was to Donald Miller, who's my favorite writer and speaker. I just said, what, you know, do you have any advice? And he said, I just think you being you is incredibly powerful. Yeah. And that really stayed with me. You know, for both of us, maybe our stories have grown organically is because you didn't write that being like, how do I make this go viral on MySpace? Totally. You know, like that wasn't the place you were coming from with it. And I think when you reverse that and try and do things out of that sense, you're faking it in some way, you know, like that's what you're saying, it doesn't work. If it's about the end result, you know, like, or almost like manipulating it. Yeah, totally. I mean, I feel like I love our beginning because it was an accident. Like, I'm glad I didn't sit down and say, how do I start a successful nonprofit? Like, I don't know how to do that, but I love that we started about as small as we could, which
Yeah.
is trying to tell one story and trying to care about one person. And I love that that's our really simple, humble beginning. And,
Yeah.
and to me, the takeaway is like, man, there's value in the small. There's
Yeah.
value in the conversation with one person, the email response to one person, the talk where maybe the attendance isn't what you wish it was,
Yeah.
you know. But just to know, I have a friend, maybe one of the best things that's ever been said, as we were taking off early on, first few months, and he just said, hey, no matter how big this thing gets, it'll always be made up of individuals, and it'll always be about the individual.
One of the things that I really liked about what you guys have done, there's been lots of moments, like I really liked your You Cannot Be Replaced campaign in September. I thought that was awesome. But one of the things that's always stuck with me is the fears versus dreams thing. I just thought it would be kind of fun to do it with you. So what would be your biggest fear and greatest dream?
Yeah, man. No, my biggest fear is being alone. My biggest fear is not finding love. And I guess with that, if I get like a 1A, settling or compromising and living a life I don't believe in, you know, and maybe even participating in a relationship I don't believe in. My biggest dream is the opposite, you know, to find love, to share my life with somebody, to have a family someday, and I think with that to live a life I believe in, you know. And I'm pretty all or nothing and kind of all heart, and there's just the desire to be true, you know. What about you?
It's interesting that you gave that as an answer, because I kind of feel the same way in a bit of a different sense of, like, I guess my biggest fear would to be feeling like I continued to do something with my life out of a sense of that's what I should do, not what I wanted to do. You know, whether that's because of pressure or expectations or how people view you, I don't know. But just that's always been my biggest fear, you know, is to do something that my heart isn't in, you know? And I think maybe my biggest dream would be that being truthful and being honest can have an impact that maybe is intangible and maybe isn't easy to always measure and go, that's what it did, but can create ripple effects where it just invites other people to be able to do the same. Because I think a lot of this road, a lot of this journey has been about like accepting that for myself, that it's okay to be like that. And I think on a personal level and kind of on a bit of a professional level, that's one reason I felt really connected to you, is because you've never been afraid, in my opinion, to be honest. And you being that way is always, to me, an open invitation for others to do the same. And so I think I'd like to, that would be my biggest dream, you know, to represent that idea that that's okay and that's something that doesn't have to be hidden or, you know, closeted.
Yeah, it's good, man.
Well, thank you so much for doing this with me,
Dude,
man. I appreciate
thanks
it
for
so
coming
much.
to Florida.
Yeah, it was awesome. It's really hot. I will need my sweaters when I get back to Canada, but it was awesome, man. I'm so happy that I got to see what life kind of looks like for you in your own backyard, you know. So
Yeah.
I hope we get to do this again up north.
All right.